Guys, Manchester United play Nottingham Forest this weekend. And even though it's been a positive last month under Amorim, I'm not too sure about this one. They've already humiliated us at home. But this is not the reason why I'm making this video. People have actually written the season off already, saying it's one of the most boring seasons ever. Liverpool are basically running away with the title with no meaningful fight from Arsenal. Manchester City are just struggling. And as we know, United and Spurs are in free fall in the bottom half of the table. And people are calling this as a fluke if the likes of Forest finish in the top 4 in a Champions League spot.
Do you think Nottingham Forest will finish in the top 4?
Definitely. Europe next season. Europe next season.
Top 10.
100%.
Top 10. No, be realistic. Top 10.
However, what people fail to forget is this club has a history that some clubs can only dream of. And the last time people wrote them off, they actually conquered Europe twice. And if Manchester United had the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson, who took them to the peaks, Nottingham Forest had the likes of Brian Clough, who did not just build a team, but built a legacy. So is this just a fluke? Or a monstrous rise of a sleeping giant? The stars in Nottingham Forest badge, they're not just for decoration. They actually symbolize 2 back-to-back European Cups, something that even Manchester United haven't achieved. But before the glory days, they were a struggling second division side with no ambition of actually qualifying for the Premier League, let alone European dominance. But after Brian Clough arrived, that changed forever. Before Fabian Hustler, Brian Clough was actually the youngest manager in England. At the age of just 30, he took charge of Hartlepool United. He was fearless, outspoken, and he came in with a charisma that was impossible to ignore.
When someone, from your playing staff comes in and says, "Boss, I think you're doing this wrongly."
Good. Well, I ask him which way he thinks it should be done. We get down to it, and then we talk about it for 20 minutes, and then we decide I was right.
When Clough took charge of Nottingham Forest, they were just drifting in mediocrity. But within just 3 years of his arrival, they were First Division champions, outclassing the likes of Liverpool and Manchester United. And then the impossible happened. In 1979, they became European champions for the first time. And just to prove that wasn't a fluke, they did it again in 1980. What Sir Alex Ferguson was for Manchester United, Brian Clough definitely was for Nottingham Forest. And maybe, just maybe, Nottingham Forest are on the rise again. After Clough stepped down in 1993, Forest went through a decade of inconsistencies. Relegation, promotions, and they struggled to stay relevant. But this year, they finally look like they belong to the Premier League. The turning point came back in 2022 when Forest were back into the Premier League after spending 23 years away. But instead of settling down, they went on and bought an unprecedented 30 players under the ownership of Evangelos Marinakis. At first, it looked very chaotic. Too many new faces, no clear identity, but Forest somehow survived the first season. And in 2024, they continued on spending. But this time, the strategy looked smarter, with a more balanced squad. It all started with Nuno Espírito Santo's appointment at Forest. Where previous managers had failed to give a clear structure to Forest, Nuno instilled a clear idea. They defend deep, they break fast, and they don't overcomplicate things, something that Clough used to do at Forest. The recruitment has been smarter too. Instead of signing players for the sake of it, they've targeted key areas. Some key players who drove Forest's success this season: Morgan Gibbs-White, the team's creative spark. He not only dictates play, but drips into lines and links midfield to attack. Murillo, a young centre-back with composure and passing range. Callum Hudson-Odoi, failed Chelsea reject, is a revitalised winger providing pace and flair. Chris Wood, a classic target man, his hold-up and finishing are second to none this season. And finally, Anthony Elanga, a player who had failed at United. His electric pace is menacing Premier League defences this season. And here's the thing, if you look at stats alone, Forest have no business being in the top 3. They're 20th for both possession and passing accuracy. They're 15th for XG, and they're 12th for big chance creation. On paper, they should be struggling. Forest aren't trying to dominate games. They are trying to win them efficient. They're clinical when they get their chances, and they're defensively solid, and they know how to grind results. And one stat that proves that is that they're 4th in the league for goals conceded. I think one of the main driving factors behind Forest's success is also their owner Marinakis and his involvement with the club since he took over it 6 years back. He's not just helped Nottingham Forest financially, but also showed continued support by visiting games. He's also raised voice against the likes of VAR when he thought decisions were going against him, and rightly so in some points. And you could recently see him just waiting in the tunnels just to congratulate the players after coming back from a game. Contrast, if you compare this to United and the Glazers, it just shows how important is it for the owners to care about the club. You know, they should care about the fans, the history of the club, and not just treat this as a money-grabbing operation. Just look at what Marinakis had to say about Nottingham Forest after he took over.
A financial decision, but also a sporting one as well. It seems that you've been a fan of the club for some time.
Yes, you know, I have been a businessman for quite some time successfully, and it's not that money that matters. I mean, it's tradition, is what you like at the end of the day and what you can afford to do. And when I was 14, 15 years old, Nottingham Forest was doing exceptionally well along the lines with Liverpool at the time, and of course there are great memories.
And you know what? When you see such passion right from the owner to the manager, it feels like this year wasn't a fluke. They deserve to be in the top 4. The question now is, how far will this go? Will the Cinderella story end with this season? Or will Nottingham Forest be back again next season and continue their rise to glory? Guys, if you like the video, please make sure that you leave a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. It took me a while making this video, and I'll really appreciate the feedback. If any, leave it in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.